So you've been really active on social media trying to get games. Can you just kind of update us with where your schedule is right now?
Yeah, so it's funny you asked that because it's crazy. I have to go to result in social media to get a game, but we could not get one. And to be honest, before all these cancellations with COVID happened, it took me like probably 8 months to fill the last two spots. So like before that, it was getting harder because we were getting better, and no one wanted to play in McHale in front of 15,000 people. So that was already a challenge. So like I filled it, let's say like 6, 7 before COVID, right before COVID, or no, during COVID, I think I filled it. And then some stuff happened, and then like probably I filled the last two, like for sure, because one changed, like I don't know, a month ago, and then it got canceled last week. So went on social media. I said, okay, forget it. I'm just gonna tweet out because we need games. So had no luck. Okay, some stuff wouldn't work out, but there was teams like New Mexico State that were in Tucson and didn't want to play. So I was like, okay, GCU didn't want to play. It just was frustrating not being able to get regional people because it saves both of us so much money. So the only really close regional game is NAU. So last night I get a call from a friend of mine. He must have saw it on Twitter, and I know him. He's a coach from just a school not that far. I don't want to say yet because we don't have it confirmed. But he was like, "Hey, we can make the 23rd work." And I'm like, 23rd is not that great for us. I said, what about the 22nd? He said, we can only do the 23rd. And I said, okay, deal. So I sent it off to our people. So I'm putting the contract out. So now that's for one more, but we still need one more.
So
So for NAU Sunday, that would be right before Christmas on the 22nd or 23rd, it'd be the 23rd. And that's not finalized yet, but I'm still trying to find one more.
so how worrisome is it that the season starts today and you guys have one game and then it sounds like you have a second game? I mean, and you have a Pac-12 to prepare for, and it's the best conference in the country.
Yeah, I guess I probably, when you put it like that, I should be worried. I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was kind of like, oh, it's okay. But now the way you made it sound, it makes me worry a little more. I just think, I mean, I can't control it. I'm trying everything. I'm confident. So the bad thing is now just with the dates, I don't like the gaps. So we're playing on 29th on Sunday. Then we're going to go into Pac-12. Like, that's not ideal, but I can't control that. So what I'm just going to do is keep on giving us game prep stuff this week, early next week too, and I just can't control it. So basically, we're going to have one game to go to USC, going to UCLA, USC. Not ideal. But there was nothing I can do because, to be honest, if I'm going to be honest with you guys, the last 3 days I had half the team out. So I couldn't even, I was looking at games for this week, but I wasn't going to go into like a Louisville or a really tough game this week without half my players. I had 8 players in quarantine because so like with basketball, there's been a lot of false positives. So one of our players tested positive on an antigen twice. And then so you can't play, you get quarantined. So everybody around her was quarantined because they've been around each other in cars, at dinner. And then so that happened, and you have to wait for a PCR negative. Well, the PCR took like 2.5 days. So I had 8 players out for 3.5 days. So they just came back like at like 1 o'clock. I found, or no, at 12 o'clock. I found out yesterday. Practice was at 1. So I just got them back. So that kind of like stalled my search for a game also. So welcome to COVID life.
So that the positive test, was it a false positive or was it?
Yeah, it was a false positive. So it's happened a lot. But the problem is, it's like, I guess if you get a couple false positives, there's certain people that have not had COVID, and they always trigger a positive. So our school is unique in the sense, we measure the amount of positive, but sometimes that could be for leftover from a residual from the machine. So like let's say it's a 1 to a 600, like so one of ours can test like a 2 or a 1.8. That's considered a positive, but we're a school that says, okay, we to retest and we do a PCR. So I think other schools would just have said that's a positive. So we had another. So the problem was she tested twice positive with the antigen, like the rapid test. It's less accurate, but for us, the more accurate is the PCR. But the problem with the PCR is it has to be administered by like a like an agent, like a doctor. So they have to go and like put something in it. So it you can't get it back in a day. I think the challenge is going to be because if that was a game day, they would have missed. I would have gone into game with like 7 people. So I think for us, we go back and we have a lab and we do a PCR. But on game days, I think they're going to have a resolution for that. But like this happened on Saturday. So they were out Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and they came back just afternoon Tuesday. So those are the challenges like me as a coach deals with. It's really hard.
Go ahead, PJ.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, what does it feel like that it's game week? Because you actually have a game Sunday.
It honestly doesn't feel like game week because up until yesterday, I didn't think I had a game. So it doesn't even feel like game week. Um, and I've had 8 players out for 3.5 days my opening week. So it's just kind of that's not ideal for me. So I'm not even in game mode. It doesn't even feel like a comfortable, typical day week. So I have to adjust. So the players that were out the last few days, this was a day off for the team. They're going in today. So it's a kind of a disaster a little bit. But I only can control what I can control. So now I'm just like in preparation mode. So my prep this week will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which is kind of typical in between, like in our Pac-12 weeks. So I'm not that worried, but I'll feel more game week on Thursday, tomorrow.
Troy, go ahead.
There we go. So I know you were talking about, you guys didn't, last time we talked to you, you didn't know the regulations and the rules for the sideline. Can you give us any indication what that might look like come Sunday?
I don't really know. So we got some regulations, like a 38-page document 2 days ago, and then we've got revisions to the document the last 2 days. So I have like a pile of, someone just dropped like all these papers off last night. So I have to go through all that because it's a couple things have changed twice now in the 2 days since that 38-page document. So as far as I know, we are going to have the national anthem. We're going to have a moment of solidarity, but those timelines have changed in 2 days. So I believe it was at 3, now it's at 5. So I have to look. I don't even know what the final is. But I know our bench is going to be spread out. Like there's a certain number I have to keep like our bubble to on the court. So all those things. But I honestly yesterday just saw the layout and I have a meeting right after this at 11 o'clock. So it's going to give me most of that information because I don't know a lot of it. I know we're going to have parents at the games and family, but I honestly don't know how long that's going to last because the numbers are spiking so bad. And I think it's hard for us as coaches. I have all my players. Well, half of them have their families coming in on Thanksgiving, coming from hot places, coming on planes, and they're going to see their kids. So it puts our season at risk. So I think that what we're going to see maybe until things calm down is possibly no families like at Stanford, because then you're not having so many people fly in because if they can't attend a game, they might not fly in. So I don't know.
Go ahead, Rich.
Good morning, Adia. How are you?
Good morning. Good, thanks.
Good. We're going to use this on the pregame show for the men's basketball game coming up on Sunday. So a couple questions I wanted to ask you. For basketball coaches in general, what's going to be the biggest challenge first games of the season with the lead up and the challenges you've had getting your team together, practicing and trying to find a sense of normalcy?
Wait, so repeat that question again. Sorry.
It was kind of convoluted.
It broke up. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the biggest challenge first game out after everything that you've been through with the hiccups and the starts? What's going to be the biggest challenge for coaches as they begin the season first game?
Well, the biggest challenge is having your whole team to compete. So I think that making sure that we have Thanksgiving on Thursday, I'm a little bit nervous because if anything happens for testing on Friday or Saturday, my team's wiped out. So that's a concern. So I think my concern is up until yesterday, I thought we possibly wouldn't be playing on Sunday. So now the concern is Thanksgiving and then being able to compete with my team. So I'm very nervous. So I had Dr. Paul talk to our team last year about the importance of this because everybody's families are coming in. So I'm nervous for the beginning of the season, also because we open up with UCLA number 9. So anything happens this week, we don't have our team in the first opening week in a Pac-12. So I'm extremely nervous and I'm not all that confident right now because I'm looking all around the country and everybody's canceling left and right. So I just need to educate this week a lot, and I have been, about being safe, or else I don't know how we're gonna start. So the first trial is gonna be Sunday, and like how that goes, and I just don't know, and it's a little bit nervous. It's a different approach. I think as coaches, like there's so many more decisions. Like I have to strategize seating on planes. If we go like I'm still I want charter flights, and I want charter flights there because I don't think that we're going to be able to compete this year without that. I think it's way too dangerous to fly commercial, because on our flights we travel 9 hours. We don't go direct anywhere except for maybe Seattle. If we're going to Oregon, if we're going to Washington State, like have layovers, and we're highly exposed in those situations. So for me, we have one of the top teams in the country. For us to be able to compete, I think we need to have that safe environment.
On the floor, what challenges will you have when you take the court for the very first time, with the amount and the type of prep that you've had that's obviously different than any other year you've coached?
On the floor, I just have to make sure. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Hold on one second. He just does this on purpose when there's a Zoom call every time.
You know what? You hug him a little bit more.
Sorry, he loves doing that on Zoom. It's like
I got, for something like that, I got all the time in the world. So that's awesome. But can we start again? Because we're going to use this on radio. Challenges on the floor once we get going with the different type of prep you had because of COVID.
So challenges on the floor, it's just so unique. It's going to be, well, we'll be able to communicate a lot better because no one's in the stands really except for family. So that's going to be easier. I think the challenges are just managing like the bench and just the distance. Yesterday when I looked down to the end of the bench, it's like 25, 30 feet away. It's really far. Like you don't realize that I only have 10 in the front like the men, but it's very far. So just the communication, and I think it's just so different for the players. So just managing that's going to be unique. But as far as basketball, I think the thing is we're so excited to play. So our team is hungry. And honestly, I'm kind of glad we got quarantined last week, because now everybody's dead serious. They just want to play. They're not standing near each other. It's awesome. It was like someone just got a wake-up call. So we're going to have challenges. I think just normal, because it's different. They have to come out. They're going to have to put their masks on. It's just really different. And it's a lot to digest as a player. So there's so much more than just the game. I think so. I'm interested to see how they follow that and how they adjust to that.
One more follow-up. So we had a conference Zoom call with some of the members of the men's basketball team, and they talked about how excited they were for the women's team and their rankings. Can you talk about the relationship between the men's and the women's team, and how the two student athletes feed off each other, push each other, and support each other?
Yeah, we have a great relationship with the men's team. They're all friends. They support each other. We see the men's team at our games. Our players go to their games. That's a normal relationship. Now, I think it's a little unique this year because you're not seeing everybody in McHale. So I think that's a little more challenging for athletes, but they're all friends, and they all usually hang out, not during COVID, but the support is there. You know, Sean and I have a great relationship. We support each other at games and help each other. We actually just talked last night about this. We both have the similar challenges with Thanksgiving. But yeah, the players love each other. We want the men's program to do well. You know, I watch their practices, great relationship with their staff. So I'm excited. You know, they got a lot of foreigners like we have this year. So I'm excited to see them play. They're going to have a really good season. I think they'll surprise a lot of people.
Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Go ahead, Jay.
So having to quarantine, 8 players for 2.5, 3.5 days, how did that impact your game prep? And what do they do what are they able to do when they're quarantined? Can they work out at all, or are you just Zooming with them? And what do you get to do with them?
Well, it kind of happened so fast and we were waiting, so I did not Zoom with them. So I was just kind of working on kind of getting the players ready that were there, because I thought we possibly might have to play with those players on Sunday. So and they were all mainly new players. So there was nothing I could do. So I figured, okay, let me just get these players a workout. Let's work on, and like Lauren and some of the freshmen were in that group. So I said, let me work on some things they need to work on with skill and just get them ready. But I had to just change my whole game plan because I had to scratch out all the practice because we were playing 5-on-5. We were doing all these things. I just didn't have the numbers to do. So it's just challenging because I thought, okay, if I have to go into a game with these players, this is how it's going to look. And I honestly, I didn't know until right before practice yesterday. So I had to do 2 practice plans yesterday. A plan if we had the whole team, and a totally different plan is, if we didn't have the whole team, it had to be shorter, had to be no 5-on-5, no live stuff. So it's just more to just be prepared for. But I have a feeling that's going to happen a lot this year.
And the players who quarantine, do they just go back to, their apartments or their homes and just stay there and that's it?
Stay there, mask, not be near each other as roommates. They were in isolation because we didn't know if they had it. Then they had to go test multiple times. So they had to go get a PCR. Then they had to go get another antigen test and stay home. Could not go to dinner, could not go to the store, had to go and stay home.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Troy, go ahead.
So I know you were talking about the nervousness of Thanksgiving and cancellation of the games and all that, and not being able to possibly have a game before Pac-12 play. But does it help having senior leaders, upperclassmen like Ari, like Kate, like Sam in place that have been there and done that, just in case that does happen? You have people that have been in those situations on the road in
Yeah, it
conference
happens
play.
if they're not the ones quarantined.
That's true.
So if it's Ari and most of the starters quarantined, that's a problem. And like we had most of our experienced players in quarantine, and it was something simple, and it wasn't anything like our players are very good. We have not had one positive case. What happens is what you're finding, what's happening with the student athletes, it's a dinner. So like we give them meals and it's all to go. But if they all go in the car together or they go to the restaurant and sit and eat, it wipes people out. So now we're not going to restaurants and sitting and eating because we're finding, even though, and I think for players it's hard because that's your bubble. So you kind of don't think anything of it. Like if you ride together every day or your roommates, that's your bubble. But then something happened to your roommates, even in your bubble, you get wiped out. So I think it's just the education on that. And we talked about not doing that right now, just taking the food to go. So I'm making sure I get them places where the food is to go. But that's going to be like the challenge the whole year. I think it's going to look really different and be a struggle for the student athletes because even when we travel, you're not going to really be able to leave your room. So when we go on, I think it's just going to be a lot more stress for the athletes because when we go on the road, normally we go to dinner, we do all these team things. If we're in LA, we go somewhere nice in LA. We go like to the pier, to the beach or something. Now I think it's going to be you get in, you go to the hotel, and you're not, and it's all to go. So you're not eating, or we might go to a big conference room and eat with distance. But I think they're not going to go around, walk around and stuff. So that's hard. I think that's, and I know football talked about it, but that's challenging for a student athlete.
And follow up with that, I was going to say, have you talked to Coach Sumlin? He just got back from Seattle with his team and see what he took from it.
Yeah, I didn't talk to him, but I talked to his director of operations, and that's the feedback that I was given, and that's stuff I didn't really think about. But it's like it was kind of it's more isolating for student athletes because you can't do anything. Normally, you go on a walk, or if there's a mall across the street or Jamba Juice, you'll walk over there. Right now, it's not like that because you don't want to be in contact because that can wipe the team out for the game. So I think it's just that's what I've heard the feedback that was from football. And football is like I think that they're a little bit different too because there's so many. They're on charters, they're on big buses. So I think it's going to maybe even be more challenging for us because we're a smaller group. So one guy's wiped out in football, you don't wipe out all 100. In basketball, we have 15. If one person wipes out 10, like we can't play. So I think it's a little different. So us as coaches, we have to really help monitor that. So it's just going to be a really unique, but the good thing is like all these obstacles that really don't care. Like it's going to be hard, but I want to play and our players want to play. So I'm just trying to provide like, hey, this is the best way we can play. We got to do X, Y, and Z if you guys want to play. And our kids want to play. So we're just blessed every day we can play. So knock on wood that we stay. But also a unique thing that I've done, we're one of the few teams that still wears a mask. So we're wearing a mask. If you look at our practice, we're distance and we're all in a mask. And most other sports aren't in masks in their bubbles or in practice. So in the game, I don't care what the protocol for the Pac-12 is or for our school. I'm doing something different to protect us more. So whatever the protocol is, that's fine. But I'm going to, when they come out of games, they're going to put on a mask. So in their basket, in their seat, I'm going to like strategize that, and they're going to wear a mask when they're out. And I'm going to wear probably N95. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I don't know if they have to do that, but I think it protects it. It's one more layer of protection. And one of the reasons why we haven't been quarantined 3 or 4 more times is because in my practice, we all wear masks. So this would have happened probably, at least 4 more times if we weren't masked. But when they contact trace and we're masked, our exposure to each other is down significantly. So I think our staff's done a really good job with that, and I'm a trainer.
Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so you have a game. You got NAU, and it's. I mean, do you have to cram a lot into that game since it's the only game you get before your conference game? I mean, what are you trying to achieve? Where do you want to be at the end of that game? I guess is.
Yes, I just want us to. So what I want to achieve from that game, obviously, we put our uniforms on. It's different. It feels different. I want to work some different combinations in game situations. Sorry if you guys hear someone crying. And then my goal is to just let us see what it feels like, because the bench is different, the atmosphere is different. We have all these cutouts. It's different than 7,000 fans. It looks different. Like the gym looks different with the banners. So it's all unique. So my goal is for us to get kind of comfortable doing that and see what it's like and just get a run through before we play. Because when I'm doing like scrimmages, so just so you guys don't know, I know you guys don't know this, but I'm trying to do scrimmages sometimes to kind of prep us for Sunday. And I never can do a scrimmage because we never can get the officials, because the officials never can get their test back. So I've been trying to simulate that and like put the bench at practice. So like last week we had one. And it's funny because on Saturday we had refs coming. We only ended up having one ref because the second ref didn't get their test in time. And then that was the day everybody got sent home. So I had all the benches set up. I'm just telling you guys this. I didn't advertise this, obviously. But I had the benches set up. I had us all ready for game mode to practice for the game. And then the team got wiped out right before. So we're walking to the gym. They contact trace, and everybody was outside the gym and had to go home. So like I haven't even been able to have a practice run because like we can't even get officials. And then the Pac-12 sends officials. Our school's protocol isn't allowing the Pac-12 officials because of testing. So we've had to go get local officials, but they're relying on like Walgreens or something like that. And now it's so full, you're not getting your test back. And it has to be within a certain window. It has to be within 72 hours. So it's been like, I can't even practice for that. So Sunday is going to be the practice. Like it's going to be not the practice because they're a good team, but it's going to be the run through for the real Pac-12 opening.
In terms of what you're going to do with the team itself, who plays and who plays when and all that kind of stuff. Again, being that it's one game before you start conference, how different is this game going to be than say an opener where you've got 3 or 4 or 5 other games before you start conference play?
It's going to be different in the sense that I think you have the luxury. Well, normally we have like 11, 12. So normally I would be giving a lot of young players experience. I would be playing everybody if I can. I would be like just doing more combinations and more just different strategy. So now I will do less of that because I have to do probably the main combinations I want to go into the Pac-12 with, which will look different. Like before, I could have probably worked like 7 rotations and 7 lineups because I work up lineups before. Now I would probably have to go with like 4 or 3 because, and there is a situation where I could lose players, but I have to go like assuming I have the whole team and go with the combinations that I really needs to work together for like a UCLA USC. Normally I would have probably had the least experienced person, or we have a walk-on. I would try to get her minutes in this non-conference because I'm knowing that she won't get minutes in the conference, but I just don't have the luxury of doing that. So it's going to be challenging for a lot of players because the unfortunate thing for me, I'll have to make decisions. There's going to be a lot of good players that aren't going to be able to play this year. because we're going right in the conference that would have played, in the non-conference.
Okay, thank you.
Rich, go ahead.
I want to follow up on Troy's question today, if you don't mind. Are you going to have to designate a COVID-19 cop just to keep an eye on everybody with their masks and all these other things that are going on during the game you're trying to coach?
No, our trainer will do that. She'll be the cop, and she even helps me because as a coach, it's very hard to communicate. So as a coach, you'll find yourself constantly doing that because people can't hear you. They can't see your expressions. So a lot of times they don't know if you're talking and you're yelling. So that's very hard. So she'll even be telling me like, put yours, but I tell her to do that. Like if we're, because I think as humans, like you automatically, we in America, we do have our social like space, like, but you automatically come within 3 feet. I think just as like by nature, it's very weird to be apart. So, and it's hard to communicate. And the challenge that I found is with foreigners, it's harder because if they see your expressions and they can kind of make out what you said with the mask, they don't know what the heck's going on sometimes. So our trainer will be the police, and those are kind of some of the challenges. And Sean's having the same challenge because with foreign kids, it's hard because they're trying to understand if you're not really fluent. Like even when I'm in Italy, I look at expressions and like if someone's pointing, because then you can kind of make out what they're saying. But if you don't see their face, it's like it's hard with the language barrier.
Let me follow up on something. You talked about how hard it is for the kids being quarantined, not being able to be together, not having that team bonding. Is it something that you guys are going to have to start addressing and looking at and making sure that you keep an eye on the student athletes and their mental health with all the challenges that's going on right now?
Every single sport and every single coach is doing that. So we all are talking about that because mental health has been like it's increased significantly. This year I think by like 100 and something percent. Like it's a lot. So we're all talking about it. We're all trying to find ways. Like I'll do like distance meals because I know that's important. That's important for us. Like, we do a lot of team bonding. We normally have retreats already, so I'll do some meals where we're in a big conference room and we're like just 2 people at a table, and then like we'll put the mask on right after. I'll do different stuff like that because we need it. But it's kind of like that's the challenge this year. That's the way it is, and like there's nothing we can do, and we want to play, but it is something we are all addressing and we are all talking about and we're all very aware of.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Kim, go ahead. Kim, are you there? Okay, go ahead, PJ then.
Sure. You know, throughout the pandemic, you've always been extremely positive that you're going to play, right? And it seems, and I don't know if it's just, I guess this is a question. This press conference, you seem positive that you're going to play, but it's like, wow, the weight of the world, like all this stuff is happening and happening fast, right? And coming at us fast. And there's a little change, right? And so do you think it's because we're going through this now with all these surges and all of a sudden basketball, it's all colliding, or you know, because it's a lot different message that we're sort of getting from you today, even though you've always been extremely careful and taken this serious since day one. It just seems like today it's a different tone for Medea.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that the different tone is because like I just got my players back yesterday. So yesterday I'm in mode of, okay, what if we have these 8 players going into the season, all that stuff. So I think that made it a little bit more challenging, I think. But there is a surge. I think what more my pessimism a little bit is because of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, you know, then it's like, I think it's real right now. I think that's another thing. I think we're going to play for sure, but there's so many challenges. It's like one thing can go wrong. So half of the team's parents are coming. So it's just like another layer. And it's just, I think those things make me nervous going into the Pac-12 and then not being able to find a game. And I didn't think it would be that challenging. I really thought, I thought I'd be able to find like a regional team, like down the, like, you know, an hour away, or a team if they're in Tucson. I thought we'd be able to find a game. So those are more like challenging than I anticipated. And then like the teams that we were playing, they got shut down from traveling. So all those things are kind of like, wow, it makes it just me think it's a little more difficult. I think it's going to be less challenging when we're in the Pac-12. But yes, but I don't know if we'll end up playing 22 games. I hope we will, but I think I know we're going to play, but I'm going to be surprised that there isn't 1 or 2 games canceled because of something like what happened yesterday. But do I think we're going to play? Yes. Do I want to play? Yes. I mean, we have a good team, and our conference is going to be so competitive. But I think it's going to be getting through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then I'm a lot more optimistic because I think of vaccinations coming out. But it's just like the travel, and I think it's very important for us to have charters, and I also understand that that's a huge financial thing. So I wish someone would just say, "D, I'll pay for all your charters." I'd be like, "Oh, you're a lifesaver," but you know it's a challenge because it's just we have very long travel, and you can't eat right now. We're not going to not eat in the airport and stuff. So I think those things it's going to make it really difficult.